Here it is. And as you can see, today we have the same plan as last class because we actually covered so neither, either, and two, but today we are going to practice them a little further. I'm hoping that we are on the second part of the class, we move to the third lesson of Unit 5. And we'll probably have time to have a team discussion about sleeping habits. But first things first, we are going to work on so, neither, and either. Let me share the book so we kind of remember everything that we did last class. So last class started by talking about, well, not the class really, but this part of the class started by talking about symptoms and injuries. We reviewed the vocabulary, which I'm hoping that we are going to use today also. And then we classify them into symptoms and injuries. And after that, we had a look at this structure, this phrase, which was related to conditional sentences. I told you that this is part of the third conditional. So, and it was just for you to remember the types of conditionals and how to use them. I'm hoping that you include them in your speech. And finally, we had a look at so, to, neither, and either. So what we had here was a division between affirmative statements and negative statements, right? That was the idea. And what do we use these phrases for? It's just to show agreement or similarity. Right, so let me mark it. This is for affirmative statements. And for affirmative statements, we have two ways of agreeing. We have the first one, which is so do I, or the second one, which requires to, which is I do too. All right, so two options, they mean the same and they are useful in the same way. So I recommend that you start using whatever is better for you, whichever suits you better. Remember that there's a difference between present past modal verbs and present perfect. So in the present simple, you of course are going to use the auxiliary verb of the present, which is do. And in both ways is the same. For the past simple, you are going to use the auxiliary verb of the past, which is did. So did I did too. For the modal verbs, you have to use the modal verb in your answer. So if your modal verb is can, in your answer needs to be so can I or I can too. The present perfect uses the auxiliary verb have in the answer. So have I or I have to. Right, so that's it. It's not more complicated than that. Remember, of course, that this, as everything else, needs some practice. Okay, so that's why we are having a look at the rules again, and we are going to practice in a little while. So for negative statements, again, you have two options. The first one is with neither or neither, depends on you. And then we have either or either. Again, we are using the auxiliary verb of the present, neither do I or neither do I, and the auxiliary verb in the negative form, either. So what is the difference between these ones and these ones? These ones are affirmative and these ones are negative, as you can see here. This is negative. You are going to use neither when you don't use the negative, and when you do use the negative, use either. Two options again. In the past form, I didn't get sick last year. You still have the same options, but with the auxiliary verb of the past. neither did I didn't either. For modal verbs, you have the modal verb in a negative form. I can't go to the fun run. In your answer, you're going to have can, so neither can I, or I can't either. Finally, you can have negative sentences in English with never. So you could have I haven't been to France, or I've never been to France. Both are negative. In this case, we have one with never. And yeah, you need to use have in your answer. Neither have I, or I haven't I. That's the deal. All right, it's no more complicated than that. Remember that if you have the verb to be, you have to include the verb to be in your answers. That would be it. Alrighty, so what you need to do now is practice a lot until they become natural. Also, I could advise that you choose whatever you think it's going to be more useful for you. So the ones that you are going to be able to remember more easily. And of course, if you want to practice with all of them, you can use all of them. It only depends on you, how you want to use them. Remember that these phrases are used to show agreement or similarity. All right, so when you agree with what other people say, you have to use these forms. Now I'm gonna show you a little more. Let me start sharing my document. I'm guessing that this is my document. So this is on Drives. If you wanna go there and start using Drive, you may. Let me make it bigger. And now I'm going to teach you how to show disagreement also. Okay, so in the book, we only saw agreement. When you agree with what other people say or another person say. Now we are going to also have a look at disagreement. So I have copied here all the options that the book provides for agreement. So, true, neither, and either. But I have also created some options for the times when you don't agree with what another person said. All right, so we don't always agree with whatever another person says, and that's something that you need to keep in mind, and that's something that today you are going to practice. All right, so let's review ways in which you can disagree with another person. For example, if another person says, I love chocolates. If you don't agree, meaning you don't love chocolates, you can say, I don't. Right? So just answer in a negative form. I don't love chocolates. Or if another person says something in a negative form, I don't get up at 6 a.m., but probably you don't agree with that because you get up at 6 a.m., you can say, I do. All right, so I don't agree with what you said because I do something different. And in the previous example, I don't agree with what you said because I feel something different about chocolates. I don't love them. All right, so that's the way you can disagree. It's quite easy. Of course, these ones are for the present. What happens in the past? So if someone says, I grew up in Potosí, but I didn't grow up in Potosí, so I have to say, I didn't. Meaning, I don't agree with you because I have a different reality. I didn't enjoy the movie in a negative form, but turns out I liked the movie, so I could say, I did. I enjoyed the movie. I liked it, right? So I feel a different way about the movie, so I don't agree, I disagree. Of course, this is the past, so you have to use the auxiliary verb of the past. What happens when you have a modal verb? Someone says, I can jump very high, but I can't. I'm not sporty, as you can see, as you know. So I could say, I can't. So I don't agree with you. If someone says something negative, I can't go on the trip, but I can. I have time, I have the money, so I can say, I can. As easy as that. All right, so it's easier to disagree than to agree, as you can see. You have many options to agree and only one for disagreeing. Finally, what happens with the perfect tenses, the present perfect? Someone says, I have been to Oruro, but I've never been to Oruro, so I say, I haven't. I haven't. So I just use the negative form of that one. It's like using the opposite. If you use the affirmative, I use the negative. If you use the negative, I use the affirmative. So it's the other way around, if you wish. What happens if someone says something negative? I haven't tried chocolate pizza, but I had that experience, so I say, I have. All right, so it's just a matter of changing the positive for the negative and vice versa. All right, so it's not so difficult, but again, it takes practice. All right, so with this, this chart, you have like a summary of what we did last class. This is all that you can find on the book, and this is what I am adding today. So this is new information. All right, so now we need to practice. That's the only thing that we have left. How are we going to practice? On Drive. I have the documents on Drive. So remember that I shared this file with you, students' personal files. Please go there, go to your folder, and you are going to find a document called Showing Agreement and Disagreement. The same document that I was showing. You click on it, and you'll find this. And you'll be able to complete the exercise that I want you to complete right now, because we are going to practice. What I want you to complete is this, exercise E. All right, so I have started the sentences, but now you have to complete the sentences with your own information. Let's read the instructions. It says, complete the positive and negative statements with information that it's true about you. I think I only wrote affirmative, so complete the statements. Complete the statements with the information that it's true about you, all right? So write your information. For example, last weekend, I didn't go out because I was tired, for example, all right? So that's all you need to do. My favorite kind of music is hip hop and, hip hop and R&B. Then I'm not very good at, etc., etc. All right, so just write information about yourself. Do that in the first part of this exercise, and then I'm going to tell you what to do with this. Pay attention to sentences 7 and 8, because they have a blank space in between. So that means that you need to complete them also. I would like to something, something, something this weekend. Okay. I had, not working, something, something, something for breakfast. Okay, so those two need to have the information in between. All the rest need to have the information at the end. Do we have questions about this activity? Did you get it? Are you following what I'm saying? anyways? Right, so if we don't have questions, let's go straight to the activity. Remember that this activity is mandatory. You need to complete it right now because then we are going to complete a speaking exercise in pairs, and you are going to be using this activity for the other thing. All right, so please complete it. Don't waste your time. Last call, any question? All right, so I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to complete these sentences. Remember, they are on Drive, and that's where you need to complete them. If you have questions, again, just write to me on the chat or open your mics and just ask me. Let's go there. So now we'll...
Sorry, Valeria.
Could you let us
One, 2 minutes more, please.
All right. Do you need more time? That's what you're saying?
Please,
Yes, please.
How much?
Yes,
How much
because
you need?
it's better if we will finish well this this work.
Yes. How much time do you need?
4 minutes. 4 minutes, please.
Okay. Yeah, please. Let me stop
Thank
the recording again. Okay, so yeah. Now let's continue with this activity. Remember that this is just the first part of the activity. Now we're going to do another part of the activity, and it's going to be in pairs. So now that you have completed your sentences, you can share them. All right, so what we are going to do is to work in pairs. Let me have some room here. In pairs, you are going to practice agreeing and disagreeing to your partner's statements. Okay, so these are my partner's statements, and my partner is going to read their statements, and I'm going to agree or disagree, depending on the truth about me. All right. Then you are going to write sentences in this document, in the same document here. You are going to write sentences saying if you both agree or disagree on something. All right, so I want you to write at least 8 sentences, at least 8. You can write more than 8 if you want to. How are you going to do that? Pay attention now, because I'm going to explain you how to write, how to say if you agree or disagree on something. These are the examples. This is supposed to be in plural form. If you both agree on something, you can say it like this. Both of us like football. Both of us like football. Can anybody tell me what both means? What is both?
Ambos.
Couple of people.
Yeah, very good. So ambos, that means 2 people. All right. You and your partner, both of us like football, for example. That's something you agree on. You can say it this way also. If you don't like football, you can say neither of us enjoy action movies. What does neither of us mean? What does it mean?
Ninguno de nosotros.
Yes.
No one.
Yeah. So in the first one was both. Both of us like something. In the second one is none of us, neither of us. Ninguno de los dos. Ninguno de nosotros. Very good. And there's also another way which is very similar, and it's we both studied chemical engineer. So you can have just both, or you can use we in front of both, and they mean the same really. Right? So both studied chemical engineering, both of us, or we both studied chemical engineering. Let me write it down so you can see the difference. You can have both of us or we both. They mean the same, but they have a different structure. So it depends on you which one you want to use. And that's for agreeing, okay? When both of you have the same taste on something, or both of you share the same experience. On the other hand, you can disagree with your partner and you can say, for example, Carlos likes football, but I don't. In that case, you're disagreeing. So where is the disagreeing part? At the end, but I don't. That's a way in which you can disagree. Sara lives in Bermejo, but I don't. Again, I'm disagreeing. I don't live in the same place as Sara. Finally, we have Melissa studied chemical engineering, but I didn't. Right? So I'm disagreeing with Melissa because I didn't study the same. I don't have the same experience as her. So you can have but I, and what comes after depends on the verb tense you're using. This is the present simple. That's why I'm using the present simple auxiliary verb. This is the past form, so that's why I'm using the past form. If my verb was can, I would use can in my answer. So Melissa can run, but I can't. Or Melissa has been to Europe, but I haven't. Right? So it's the same rule as we saw above in the chart, but now you are actually expressing what two people have in common, or what people agree on or disagree on. So your sentences are going to be like this, okay? Yeah, that's it. So let me summarize what you need to do. First thing, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms, right? So you are going to share your sentences with your partner, right? So you take turns to share the sentences. I would say that one person, the first person, reads all his or her sentences. The other person agrees or disagrees. Then you change roles. Another person shares all her or his sentences, and the next person agrees or disagrees. Each time my partner reads a sentence, I immediately have to agree or disagree. All right, for example, let's say that I'm working with one of you. Let's name someone who's not in the class so nobody feels picked up. Let's say I'm working with Sara. So Sara says, last weekend I went to La Paz because I had a family gathering. Immediately I say, oh, I didn't go to La Paz because I have nothing to do in La Paz. I stayed home. Right? So that's what you're going to do. Show agreement or disagreement immediately after your partner reads a sentence. That's first step. And finally, you are going to write at least, let me write it here, at least 8 sentences talking about both of you, right? So it could be agreement or disagreement. It would be good that that you had 4 that agree and 4 that show disagreement, so you have a balance. But it depends on how many things you agree on and how many things you disagree on. So we cannot handle that. And yeah, that's going to be the activity. It's sharing and also trying to use the agreeing and disagreeing patterns. All right. Do we have questions about what you need to do? Do we understand the idea? Ask me now, because then you go to the small rooms and you don't know what to do. So use your time wisely. Questions?
Yes,
Yep.
but we have to write the answers.
No, you don't have to write the answers. Which answers? What do you mean?
The 12 sentences before this exercise.
Oh yeah, that's what we were doing before, Marcelo. That's why I gave you 5 minutes and then I gave you 4 minutes to write in your document. Yep.
Yes, but I refers to if we can to write the answer of my partner.
Oh, another person's answers? No. What you are going to write is 8 sentences saying what you agree on or what you disagree on.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All right, thank you for your question. Do we have any other question before leaving to the breakout rooms? All right, yeah. So please,
Valeria, sorry,
yeah.
what do you suggest? How is better to share our document with another person in break room?
I don't need you to share your documents. It could be just an oral exercise. I think it's better if
Yeah,
oral.
okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thank you. And yeah, let's go to the small rooms. Let me create them. And yep, good luck everybody, and I'll see you in a little bit. Let's go. Okay, time's up. Yeah, thank you guys for trying to complete this. I know it was a difficult exercise, but yeah, it's something that we need to practice. Remember that we have a lot of options. The table is quite big, but it's something that you need to keep in mind. If you can, please print that document, have it with you, have a look at that every time that you have 5 minutes, because this requires a lot of practice, understanding what it is about. So please, oh please, don't just drop this and leave it, because yeah, it's useful, but it takes a lot of practice, as I said. Both the structures, the one that that we saw at the beginning, sorry, of the document, and also the other structure. Let me share the document. This structure is also very useful, right? So when you are summarizing some points, or when you are sharing, for example, something that you and your partner share, it's a very good way of establishing this kind of thing. So I truly recommend that you keep practicing this, even though it may be a little difficult. And also, even though this chart is a little long, but yeah, it's worth it, I promise. Let me just tell you something. I heard a few people using this correctly, but I didn't have the chance to check on all of you. Just in the case of this one, for example, I would like to, let's say, travel. I would like to travel this weekend. And if another person agrees with me, the other person would say, so would I. All right, so remember that when you have modal verbs, you have to use the modal verb in your answer. I would like to travel this weekend, so would I. Or if you don't agree, maybe, I wouldn't. Just like that, remember, when you don't agree with something, it's a short answer. I would like to travel this weekend, so would I agree. I would like to travel this weekend, I wouldn't, meaning I don't agree. All right, so this one was one that you needed to pay attention to. And yeah, Virginia, tell us.
I have a doubt in the 5 sentence. I've never been to. It's possible with 2, or we need ing form of verb. I've never been working, for example.
Oh, all right, yeah. That's a good question. So when you have the preposition to, it refers to a city. For example, I've never been to Cali, all right, or to a place. I've never been to Peru. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's a rule. When you have a preposition to, it's exactly just a place. But if you don't have the preposition to, it could be anything. Yeah. For example, I've never been worried. I've never been working, etc. Yeah. Is that helpful, Virginia?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. All right. That's a good question because we usually mistake this preposition, but yeah, when you have to, it's referred to a place. All right. Another thing that I wanted to mention is this one. I used to. Can anybody tell me what I used to means?
Solía ser.
Solía. Yeah. So this talks about a past habit.
Past habit.
A past habit. Yeah. Something that you did in the past repeatedly. Yeah. Probably now it's not true. Something that you did repeatedly in the past. And I'm used to, I used to, and what follows is a base form. So for example, I used to ride my bike. I used to travel with my friends. I used to visit my grandma. I used to eat pizza, etc. So base form of the verb. On the other hand, I'm used to. What does I'm used to mean?
Acostumbrada, acostumbrada.
Yep, but in the present. Okay, this is the present. I am right now used to. So it's in the present. It's
The
estoy.
habits today, yes?
Sorry?
They have it in today.
Yep.
Or for today.
Yes. There you go. So, estoy acostumbrada now, in the present. Estoy acostumbrada a algo. So, the first one was a past habit. This is a present habit or something that in the present I do. And this is not followed by the base form, sorry. This is followed by the ing form. This is important. All right, so let me just make some room here so we don't go to the next page. So I could say, again, example, I used to visit my grandma. Yep, so this is the base form of the verb. That's the idea. What happens with this one? I cannot say I am used to visit. In this case, it's I'm used to visiting my grandma. Right, so yeah.
Vale. Ludmila and I both agree with we used to practice in yoga. And what is the right form to write the sentence? Both of us like practicing yoga.
Are you talking about this one or the first one, used to?
No, I'm used to.
This one, okay. All right. So, for example, Ludmila says, let me bring it to the next page because now I don't have room here, enough room. Ludmila says, let's use the same example. I'm used to visiting my grandma, so my answer would be, so am I. That's how I agree, right, with the verb to be because I have the verb to be in my sentence. Then the sentence that you write would be, we both are used to
practicing.
Yeah, practicing yoga, visiting our moms.
Okay.
Yep. There you go. So yeah, it would be using the same form. You cannot change it. Yeah. All right, and in the previous one, to agree, for example, I used to visit my grandma. If you agree with me, you would have to say, so did I. Oops. So did I. Right? Why? Because this is the past form. So I used to, so did I. This is the present because you have the verb to be in the present. Okay, so careful with those things. And yeah, it's very important that you kind of have this vocabulary in hand, because also this is useful vocabulary. Many times my students ask me, how do you say estoy acostumbrada? Then this is how you say that. But be careful with the form. That's important. Yeah, Virginia?
If correct, I used to visit or I used to visit it.
In this one, I used to visit in the base form. Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. You don't need the past form because you already have the past form in used to. That's the past. So what follows is base form. Good. All right. Do we have any other question or comment? Good. So I'm going to be also checking your answers and sentences because yeah, I know this is tricky, but it requires a lot of practice, as I said. Yeah. Now I'm going to give you answers. I'm going to have you, sorry, answer some questions related to the same things that we are practicing. This is like a little quiz that I want to take to the whole class and see how we are doing. So let me launch my first question. My statement is my knee hurts. So what is your answer for that? My knee hurts. What would you say? This is tricky also. Can you see the poll? Yeah, you can because there are people voting. We're going to wait for more people to vote. All right, I think we're on time. Those are the results. So let me tell you something else, because you may come across this kind of sentences. My sentence, let me move this, is my knee hurts. In this case, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about my knee, all right? So my knee is the one that hurts. So you have to agree with this subject, not with me. This is not about me, this is about my knee. So to agree with sentences that start with my, you always need to use mine in your answer. So that's mine, that's perfect, or mine, that's too. All right, so let me tell you again. Whenever the other sentence starts with my or with any possessive adjective, your answer needs to have mine, the object one. All right, so this is also a little tricky, but it's something that you need to know because yeah, you may come across this kind of sentences. It's quite common to have this kind of sentences, right? So careful with that. Questions about this specific sentence? Do we get why we are using mine? All right, so let me just tell you the difference between my and mine. My is me. Mi rodilla duele. But mine is mío o mía. Entonces mi respuesta es la mía también. ¿Okay? Entonces esa es la diferencia entre my and mine. Me and mío. Oops, sorry. Like that is correct. Yeah. So me and mío. O mía, of course. There's the gender problem in Spanish. Yeah, so that would be the difference. Whenever you have my in an answer, to agree, you have to use mine. All right, now let's stop sharing and I'm going to ask you another question. Let's see how it goes with this one. So my
I can't see.
sentence. Sorry?
We didn't see, we can't see your sentence.
Disappear.
Please.
It disappeared?
It disappears.
It
All right.
disappears.
Let me go again. Relaunch. All right, can you see my sentence now?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So my sentence is, I've never pulled a muscle while doing exercise. What about you? This is easier than the previous one. Let's wait for some more people to vote. All right, I think we're ready. Let me show you. Yep. So I've never pulled a muscle. It's a negative sentence. Okay, so you have to agree thinking about that. It's a negative sentence. You cannot say me too if I say I've never pulled a muscle because that doesn't make sense. And so have I, it's an affirmative way. So it doesn't go with a negative one. The only possible option is neither have I. All right, I've never pulled a muscle, neither have I. That's the one. All right, so let me stop sharing and let me go back and launch the other one. Can you see the other one?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So let's go. My sentence is, last night I was feeling exhausted. And we're doing well in this one. All right, I think we're ready to go. Those are the results. And yeah, you are right in this one. Last night past, I was feeling exhausted. And we have two possible options here. I was too. I didn't write the comma, but that's supposed to be with a comma. Or so was I, right? So I need the same verb in my answer to agree. I was feeling exhausted. So was I was too. Easy peasy. I think this one was easier than the previous one. Let's go with the next one. Let's see how you do with this one. Oops, sorry, my mistake. Let's go. All right, so I'm having trouble swallowing. Remember, I'm having trouble swallowing. Can you see it? Yeah, you can. All right, so pick your choices. remember that you need to use the same verb in your answer. So I'm having trouble swallowing requires the same verb in your answer.
Vale, el anterior, ¿cuál era la respuesta? Disculpa.
Yeah, let me check that one after. Cuando terminemos, volvemos a revisar esa nota. Let me see, that's number 2. Number 2. Okay, so let's review this one. Okay, so we have, I'm having trouble swallowing. We only have one possible answer, and it needs to be I am too. Let me share my board again. Let me clear this. Let me move this, and let me write it. I'm having trouble, etc. I have the verb to be, so if you agree with me, you have to use the verb to be. So, am I, or I am too. You only have that option. Remember that you need to keep the same verb. You cannot use have for everything. That is something that I noticed when I was listening to you when you were practicing. Some people were using have for everything. That's not how it works. When can you use have? When you have in your verb. I have traveled, etc. So have I have too, right? So this is very important. Pay attention to this. If you have the verb have in the main sentence, you need the verb have in your answer, right? That's how it works. It works. So you need to replicate, the same verb in your answer. Careful with that. It's an important one. And
Vale, one question, please.
yes, of course.
In this case, if I am not agree, or if I disagree, I have to say I'm not.
Yes, there you go. That's right.
Okay.
So that's for agreeing. If you're not having trouble swallowing, you have to say I'm not. Yep, very good. All right. Any other question, or we good? Yeah. So Nati asked us, what was the correct answer for the previous sentence? Let me just answer that because I may forget, so I don't want to forget about it. The question was, my sentence was, last night I was feeling exhausted. Exhausted. And we had the options of I am too, which is impossible. I was too, oops, the comma, or so was I. Those were the options. So I must tell you that I am too, impossible. But I was too, or so was I, both are correct because I have the verb I was feeling exhausted. And if you agree with me, you have to say also your answer with the same verb. The same verb that I use in my sentence, you have to use in your answer. That's the rule. And just out of curiosity, if you don't agree, you just say, I wasn't, I was okay, I wasn't. Right, so that's how it works, right? So careful. Same verb that I use, same verb that you are going to use in your answer. Questions about this one, or are we good? Okay, so let's go because this isn't over. I still have to ask you a few more things. Yeah, this is not working. Just now. Give me a second, this is not working. All right, so Zoom decided to stop working. That's so sad. Nothing I can do about it. Yeah, but that's the idea. You need to remember that whatever you hear in the sentence, it's exactly that, what you need to replicate in your answers, okay? Now it decided to start working again, so let me ask you one more question. My sentence is, I broke my thumb. Remember, this is my thumb. I broke my thumb when I was a child. So what can you say about that? Read carefully, this is tricky. All right, I think we're ready. Let me show you the results. All right, so I broke my thumb when I was a child. We have so I did, incorrect, it's the wrong order. It could be correct if it said so did I, but so I did, it's impossible. Then we have so did I, which is the correct one, and neither did I, it's impossible because my sentence is affirmative. So we cannot say neither did I to an affirmative sentence. Yeah, very good. The second option was the correct, the one that won. And now the last one, the last question of the evening. My sentence is, I have a stiff neck. I have a stiff neck. What can you say to that? I have a stiff neck. This is also tricky. I set a trap. Okay, I think we're ready to share the results. And I'm not happy with the results. Most of you chose the incorrect answer. All right, so let me just share my board for the last time tonight. I'm not happy about this. Let me explain why. All right, so my sentence is, I have a stiff neck. I have the verb have, of course, in my answer, but this is not the present perfect. This is the present simple. So when you have the present simple, you need to replicate the auxiliary verb. So do I or I do too, right? When do I use have in my answer? When I'm talking about the present perfect. I have never had a stiff neck. That one would be correct. That wouldn't be the present simple, that would be the present perfect. All right, so my only options here would be, so have I? Oh no, it's not so. Have I? This
It's
is negative.
incorrect here.
Yes, neither have I, or I haven't either. Thank you very much for the correction, Ludmila. I was thinking automatically, yeah, but this is negative. Yeah, all right, so it depends. Be careful with your verb tenses. I've been repeating the same thing since we started this course. You have to be very careful with the verb tenses. Once you master verb tenses, almost everything else it's a little bit easier, right? So careful. Present simple always uses do. Present perfect always uses have, which is this have. Okay, careful with that. Yeah, questions about this? Yeah, Edmundo?
Yes, Valerie, thank you. When we will have an answer like so have I, which in which verb tense?
Oh, yeah, in the same verb tense is the present perfect. Let me give you an example. I have traveled a lot. It's a simple example. So have I, meaning I have traveled a lot too, or I have to. All right, so that's when. This is also the present perfect, by the way. So present perfect, affirmative like this one or negative like this one, uses have in the answer. That's the idea. All right, any
Okay,
other
thank you.
question? Yeah, no problem. More questions or are we good? All right, this is a very tricky topic. I have to admit it. So if you're having trouble or if you think this is difficult, I agree. It is, but we need to practice, okay? It's just a matter of including this in your vocabulary. We'll have a short practice about this next class. It's necessary. And yeah, then we are for sure moving to the next topic, which I'm trying to do since last class. One last thing, please don't be mad, but I need to steal from you a few more minutes. Let me show you on Neo. I have shared already this one, page 38. Remember that you had a homework. If you completed that homework, let me know. I don't need you to share anything. I don't need you to prove that you need your homework. If you did it, click the button there. If you didn't, don't click anything. That's it, right? So I also wrote the instructions in English and in Spanish. So please make sure you read the instructions so you understand how to do it. That's it. That's the last message I wanted to share. As always, if you have extra questions, stay with me. Otherwise, you may leave. And as I thank you all for coming and for your effort to participate.